Right, well, as regular viewers to our channel will know, I love to grow fruit and vegetables for the kitchen. One thing I'm going to do this year is I've set myself a little task, and that is to use saved seed potatoes. So what I did when I harvested our potatoes last year was I kept a tray back so that I could then plant them this year and see if I can get some generations going, a bit like what I do with things like garlic and tomatoes, things like that. So it's our own seed that we're saving and then growing year after year. So I'm trialing it with potatoes. We're now in February, and it's a great time to chit them, which is where you bring them out into light and let them grow little sprouts so that they have then a bit of a good head start when you do plant them. We'll plant ours in about March, April time, end of March, beginning of April. So it'll give them a good month, 2 months to really get going and be ready for planting. So these are the potatoes that I saved last year. I've got the two varieties that we always grow. This first one here is Pentland Javelin, which are our first early. And these ones here are Maris Pipers, a main crop variety. Now I've saved the potatoes that are a sort of medium sized out of what we grew. So I'm not sure how they're going to fare, but we'll definitely see. The first thing I've got to do is go through them and get any that haven't stored well out. So there's this one here, which is a bit wrinkly, a bit squishy. That one is going to have to go. But I think the rest of them, that one's a maybe, but he can stay in there for the time being and see how he does. The rest of them seem to be all right. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. Like I said, they're not very big, but I've got to try these things, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? So we'll see how they get on. I have also bought some normal seed potatoes as well, just so we can compare. And also as a backup, so that we're not fully relying on these just in case they don't really grow any decent sized potatoes on them. But yeah, so we'll leave them for now and then come back in a couple of months' time when it's time to plant them. We're now at the end of March and our potatoes have well chitted and it's time to put them in the ground. So the first thing we need to do is measure 2 foot from the last row. These are garlics, but these potatoes will get quite big. But even so, the garlic's already got a head start, so they should be probably like that-ish by the time they come to harvesting, so they'll be fine. But we still want that nice big gap between them so that they have room to expand. So we get our guide wire. And then just measure about 2 foot from our last row, which is nice and easy when they're grown up like that. So this is what I mean when I say a chit. So you can see the potatoes sprouted a nice little dark green sprout. You see just there's some leaves that are ready to go and roots down there. So this is the way that we're going to put it into the hole. But this is why we let them grow out a bit. So they've got a nice head start ready to go when they hit the ground running basically then. Right, so I got my first potato. I use a bowl planter. We basically want them to be about 10-15 centimetres deep. And then score in the first hole. We get a nice little section of soil out and pop him in. And tuck him into bed. So that's that one done. And then we just use a 30 centimetre stick to measure out along our line and go again. Brilliant. Now that's that until they are ready to harvest in about June sort of time. So we'll come back then. We did a bit of an experiment this year because that's what part of, you know, the fun of gardening, and that was to see whether we could grow potatoes using our own saved seed potatoes. So the ones that were sort of mid-size, I kept them back last year and planted them in the spring to see if they would grow, basically. And if we could have a bit like a save seed system with the potatoes. I mean, technically it worked. We've got some potatoes that I've harvested here already, but they definitely weren't as strong as buying them from the shop. So I probably won't do it again. One thing I will do, which we did this year, was use the lawn clippings as a mulch. And that has done really, really well, actually. And it's even started to break down into the soil and feeding the soil, which is brilliant. So I'm really, really happy with that. And it has kept them a lot more in the shade than normal. Normally they would get a bit green, but actually we've only got one or two where some birds has been in and scratched it, and that's why they're exposed. So let's dig up a couple more. Let's dig up a couple more and see how they are. Oh, that's really good. So this one's already had three big ones, plus these two more big ones. So actually, I mean, it has worked out well because at the end of the day, we only put one medium-sized potato in, and we've now got 5 big ones. So that is good. These are a first early variety. I think it's Pentland Javelin is the first earlies we grow. So that's really good. And you see the soil's already breaking down. The mulch is breaking down to this lovely black compost, which is brilliant. So that's really good, actually. Okay, so here's one that I haven't started digging yet. So we've got one green one there, which is a shame. That's where I think the sparrows have been in digging around. There was also a toad, which I thought was a potato, and it scared the life out of me. Oh, so this is exactly what I mean by being a really good mulch, is that actually it's covered this potato and kept it lovely and white for us, which is brilliant. Put that one in there. So I'll just see if there's any more near the surface. One just there, little one. So I'm going to get rid of most of this mulch just because it's quite a lot. But the residue I will leave, and it will feed the soil. Ready for next year. Right, the only downside is that it's quite tough, so I can't just put them out like you want to do with no dig. I have to sort of tease them out a bit. Oh, hello, cheeky little flesh there. 1, 2. Whoa, there's a nice big one there. So that's a good little mix. One baking potato, a couple of new potatoes. A little fish around for any stowaways. There's one. Oh my god, loads. I mean, it has. Thing is, it has worked. I just feel like the plants aren't as big as when we have them. Oh, that's a shame. There's normal going on. We'll have that one tonight. I've just pierced it. But lovely big potato tubers in here. So this is why I call it a min-till garden, really, rather than no-till, because we do, dig away a little bit, but not very much. Not like you would with double dig. But there are times when you just need a bit more, at least on our setup, it seems to be you need a bit more digging involved. Just to tease them up. Ooh, that's a nice big one. So yeah, overall I am pleased. I mean, it didn't cost us anything because we're just using our own potatoes from last year. But I feel like maybe a mix next year. We'll buy some seed potatoes, but. And this is where the mic cut out. So sorry, what I was going to say was we'll probably just really buy seed potatoes from the shop next year. It was a really fun experiment. And as you can see, we've had some lovely potatoes, but I think we're better off just buying some more. So yeah, whoa. So this is what I mean. Like the plants on top, the sort of growth on top looks pretty disappointing. But actually, when we were digging through, look, lovely potatoes in there. So yeah, it did. It sort of worked. Um, but I wonder if it would have been a better harvest with some shop bought, actual seed potatoes that have, been properly treated and things like that. Because obviously, as you can see, when I'm digging up the plants now, I haven't let these potatoes completely die back and put all of their goodness back into the little tubers, because I'm just picking them for eating. So I'm harvesting them now, and also I like to use this ground for leeks. So that's why I put the first earlies in here. So yeah, it's really interesting to see the sort of how it worked. But I think probably in future we're going to just buy them. Really, I mean, yeah, I think that's probably the best thing. But good to see, isn't it? I was really, really pleased with this mulch. It did a really good job of keeping the light out and giving us some really good potatoes. Just scratching around for some more. Oh, yeah, more potatoes. It kind of reminds me of back in lockdown. Um, all of the shops had sold out of seed potatoes that we would normally buy, because growing your own was really popular that year, which was really great. But it did mean that we couldn't find any seed potatoes. So what we ended up doing was actually just growing the potatoes that were just from the supermarket that you'd buy to eat. Because they, as you probably know, in your cupboards, they start growing by themselves anyways. So we thought, well, we'll just give these a go, and it was pretty similar actually, where we still got good potatoes, but probably not as many, and not as reliable as if we'd, you know, grown from actual seed potatoes where they've had the chance to put the nutrition back into the potatoes properly. But yeah, definitely a good money saving technique, and with a bit of effort, you probably could get it to work better. There are probably some lessons learned about leaving them to die back properly and this type of thing. But for me, I need the space to be really productive because we don't have this little patch for growing veg. And like you see there, some of them didn't even put any potatoes on at all, or maybe just one or two. So that's what I mean by a bit more reliable. But yeah, like I say, I try to make the most out of this area because it's not a huge area. It's enough for us, but that's with I try and get at least two crops out of the ground a year at least. Um, something that we sow in the spring, like these potatoes, and something that we plant in the summer after these, after the spring crops, like turnips or leeks, these types of things. So yeah. Hey, I'll carry on digging, and hopefully we'll find some more. Well, there we are. So here's my little harvest of our saved seed potatoes. It was really fun to give it a go. I don't think it was as productive as it could have been, but I mean, look at those. They are really good potatoes, so I am really happy with that. So thank you so much for joining on my little experiment this year. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Please do like and subscribe for more, and I'll see you again next time. Cheers.